In today's class, we're going to look at creating your whole farm strategy. This will take the 4 functional areas that you've already created, marketing, human resources, finances, and operations, and rolling it all up into a total overarching strategy for your business operation. I fully recommend that you take those 4 functional areas, and like I said before, turn them into annexes. Don't roll them up into the main document, just in case you have to do changes later. So let's get started.
Throughout these classes, we've asked you to break out your business into marketing, operations, human resources, and finance components. Now, it's time to pull all of these components together, to make sure that the strategies you've chosen for each functional area are compatible as an integrated system. If you've identified more than one strategy for each functional area, then think about how each strategic alternative might impact the business and other strategies. With a whole farm strategy, you will be ready to analyze your business for long-term profitability and cash flow. If you haven't already researched product and enterprise expenses for each of the individual strategies you've developed, marketing, operations, human resources, finance, do so now. Secure certified bids for all equipment and machinery from manufacturers, dealers, or representatives. Certified bids come directly from the equipment representative and are often required by lenders when applying for a loan. When certified bids are unavailable, look for published cost estimates or talk with other producers who purchased similar inputs or who have initiated a similar business strategy. Once you've secured realistic cost estimates, you can properly allocate direct, variable, and overhead fixed expenses for the whole farm. Knowing your costs and your cost structure will improve your overall knowledge of the operation and will prove invaluable as you make decisions over time. Make sure you know the difference between direct and overhead expenses as well as a method for allocating overhead expenses among enterprises. Try to break down your costs between annual direct or variable expenses, those costs that vary with production volume, and annual overhead or fixed expenses, those costs that will be incurred no matter how much you produce. One-time startup costs may be prorated as fixed expenses when developing long-term income projections and as intermediate expenses in your first-year cash flow. You know what you're going to market, who's going to buy it and why, how you're going to produce it, and where your finances will come from. The next question is, will your business actually make it? Will you accomplish your personal and environmental goals, cover costs, generate the income needed to cover family living expenses, service debt, and build equity in the long run? The evaluation process can be as sophisticated and comprehensive as you like, and there are a wide range of helpful tools available. Financial evaluation is critical regardless of your goals and planning purpose. In this class, you will evaluate the financial feasibility of each whole farm strategy, or strategies. By preparing long-range and transition period performance projections, specifically, you will work through a whole farm evaluation to look at projected profitability, liquidity, solvency, and risk. Once you've completed the financial evaluation, you may decide to further test and evaluate your strategy for environmental, market, community, and quality of life or personal benefits. Market expansion, operational transitions, and human resources shifts likely will impact output and expenses, and consequently income levels, for more than 1 year. A long-term evaluation is therefore critical to help you decide whether or not to adopt a new marketing, operations, human resources, finance, or whole farm strategy. You will analyze the financial impact of your potential business change using the same financial criteria or performance measurements that you used when assessing your current financial situation. Profitability: will this new strategy significantly increase net income from the farm? Will this new strategy help generate cash flow sufficient to pay back debts in a timely fashion? Solvency: will this new strategy facilitate continued growth in net worth? Risk: will this new strategy affect the risks faced by the farm business and family? Let's first start with profitability. Will this new strategy significantly increase net income from the farm? Before you can begin to address this question on a whole farm basis, you may need to do some preliminary evaluation. If your new strategy includes the addition of a new product enterprise, you should begin by analyzing each enterprise separately, using the net return and break-even calculations. Most financial planning and evaluation begins at the enterprise level. Whether you are considering the addition of one or more products, enterprises, to your business, an evaluation at this level can help you settle on profitable pricing strategies, crop and livestock mixes, and risk management tactics. Moreover, if you intend to seek outside debt financing for a traditional or specialty operation, farm lenders will request an enterprise budget to evaluate the relative credit worthiness of the enterprise. An enterprise budget is simply a look at the net returns contributed to the business by each enterprise. It often includes an estimate of the enterprise's break-even sales price and volume. The net return to an enterprise represents returns to unpaid operator labor, management and equity capital. It is a measure of profitability, which over the long run should be large enough to justify using unpaid labor and equity capital. Net returns are easily calculated, particularly if you have already estimated sales revenue, output and expenses, marketing, operations, human resources and finance, in previous evaluations. Your net return to the enterprise is calculated by subtracting total expenses from gross returns. A break-even analysis is probably one of the most useful calculations that you will perform when considering alternative business strategies. Break-even numbers can be used to instantly identify those enterprises that don't cover variable and fixed costs of production. If you intend to sign a market contract or lock in a future price for your product, crunch some numbers to determine what level of production is necessary at that price to break even. Make sure you can cover your variable and fixed costs of production. On the flip side, if your output or production volume is fixed, try calculating a break-even value to determine what product price is necessary to break even on production and marketing related costs. If neither your price nor output is fixed, these calculations can be used to develop production and price floors for each enterprise, something that will be useful for future monitoring and decision-making. Break-even volumes will tell you the minimum production volume necessary to cover your costs of production. You might consider this a lower size limit for your business. The break-even volume is calculated by dividing total annual fixed costs for the enterprise by the difference between your estimated market value and variable costs for each enterprise. Substitute the costs of capital ownership, depreciation, interest, repairs, taxes, and insurance, for the actual cost when estimating the ownership costs of annual fixed expenses. Use the cost estimates along with market values developed in to calculate break-even volumes. Try experimenting with a range of market prices to see how they affect your break-even production levels. If your production volume is fixed, either because of production capacity or sales contracts, calculate a break-even value for your product. In other words, determine what market price is needed to cover your variable and fixed costs. Break-even values are calculated by dividing your total costs for the product or enterprise by the total quantity you expect to produce or sell. Again, your total costs are the sum of your direct and overhead expenses for the enterprise. Once you've calculated one or more break-even numbers for each enterprise or product, compare these numbers against your sales projections and your upper limit for production capacity or your projected market price. Are your sales goals financially feasible? Can you produce the break-even volume? Will the market, based on your research, support your minimum break-even value? If your enterprise doesn't break even, then you'll need to take another look at the market or your cost structure. Is there a way to boost your projected market price or to cut input costs? If not, if you can't break even on your costs, then your business idea for this enterprise is not financially feasible. Stop here, return to your vision and rethink your plan. Is there another way to reach your goals, or are you willing to sacrifice income from this enterprise to achieve your vision? On the other hand, if calculations suggest that your enterprise will more than break even, you're ready to perform a profitability assessment for the whole farm.